Let's take a quick minute and talk over the three major action types for semi-automatic handguns. We normally have single action, double action, also known as double action single action or DASA, and then we have double action only firearms, which are also abbreviated DAO. So first we'll go ahead and start with single action. These firearms are normally 1911s is the most common at this point. These guns feature external hammers, and when you pull the trigger, they perform a single action. In this case, they release the hammer. When you pull the trigger without the hammer cocked, the gun cannot fire. So these guns have to have a hammer cocked in order to fire, and pulling the trigger performs a single action. The gun cycles, cocks the hammer, and then you do it again and again until the magazine is empty. Double action or DASA guns can be fired in either single action or double action. You can cock the hammer back and pull the trigger, performing a single action, or with the hammer down, these guns have a long, heavy trigger pull that's double action, which cocks the hammer and releases it. It's performing two actions. So DASA guns normally have decockers on them, like this one does as well. So you can rack around into the chamber and put the hammer down safely, so that when you go to fire the gun, you've got that long, heavy first pull, the gun cycles, and subsequent shots are lighter and shorter pulls because you just have a single action to perform instead of cocking the hammer and releasing it. The third major action type are double action only. These are generally striker-fired handguns. The most obvious difference is they normally do not have external hammers and are instead using a striker system or an internal hammer that when you pull the trigger, it finishes cocking that slightly and releases it. And so every single time it cocks it slightly and releases it the rest of the way. And so these are double action only because they only fire in that double action mode that cocks and releases the hammer every time you pull the trigger. So that's the major difference between the three. It's really pretty simple. Single action performs a single action when you pull the trigger, it releases the hammer. Double action can cock and release the hammer or just release the hammer. And then double action only, cock and release the hammer on every single pull.